and he's in trouble. He's going to run. He's going to get the first down.
Don't sleep on those legs. Oh, he faked the slide. Sauce time. The Pitt Panthers have pulled a stunning upset over the West Virginia Mountaineers.
And Johnny Majors gets a ride across the field.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Simplify. As always, I'm your host, Zach Kaminsky. Just me and my co-host, Mason, this week. Mason, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I officially have the college football itch. We're past the point now where the NBA Finals is over. We're in like the dead of summer where we only have baseball. So I will be using probably the next like 6 or 7 pods to just get hyped for that first game in September.
I can't agree more. I mean, it's really, I'm starting to write these conference previews, which we'll get to later in the show, but I'm thinking about possible matchups and like conference title races. I need it back in my bloodstream now.
It can't come soon soon enough.
I mean, let's do a little numbers game. Well, is 72 days soon enough for you?
I'll make it work.
That's all we need. All right, so unfortunately, the itch is coming at a time where basically all college football news is sort of dead. The biggest news we've gotten in the last couple of weeks is we have an official date on the new Big 12 teams coming in, which is not this season, but next season. We'll have BYU, Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati joining the Big 12, which I think we're going to have a 14-team Big 12. I don't think that Texas and OU are going to leave before then.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting dynamic for that. It's nice to see some of those group of 5 teams that probably deserve to be Power 5 like contenders in there, while those 2 teams that are eventually moving to the SEC are there. Like, it'll be a good kind of who's real, like loser goes home type conference that year.
I'm super excited for it. I think BYU, Houston, Cincinnati are all really like starting to crest. UCF's a little down just because it's hard to get 3 winning coaches in a row. But I think that say we do get the 23 season with Texas and OU in the Big 12. Do you think that the Big 12 will try and screw those 2 teams over by sending them to play at the new teams? Like they'll definitely send Texas to Houston because they know it'll mess with them. But they'll probably send like them to both of them each to 2 of them. So say Texas will go to at Houston and UCF, and then like Oklahoma will go at Cincy and BYU.
What, basically just to fuck with their strength of schedule?
Honestly, just to give them a big middle finger on the way out. Just like have fun.
Oh, here's your replacement type thing?
I wasn't even thinking about it like that. Just like, these are really good teams, and now you got to play them on the road because you fucked us over.
Yeah. No, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them at all. Those are like the two big money makers. So definitely not happy that they're leaving. I could see them, pushing that narrative for sure. But speaking of narratives, how gross! It just feels weird to have BYU in the Big 12, though. I don't know. Just the fact that it's such a culture in the Big 12, and not that BYU doesn't have that, but it just feels something about it is off. It just feels awkward.
Are you saying that BYU doesn't fit in the Big 12 culturally?
I think so. Like, I don't know. They just have a very different brand of football, and I'm not even talking like play style. I'm just talking about like when I think of BYU, I don't like Big 12 is not something that I think about, and that's probably just because like it's West Coast, like the religion associated with the school, like I don't know, but it just feels awkward, and I think it's good. It's good for the conference. It's good for the game of college football, but it just feels like I don't know, even 5 years from now, I'm going to forget that BYU is in the Big 12. Like, it feels taboo.
Honestly, though, say they were in the Pac-12, it would feel weirder. They would feel more of a cultural outsider thing. And then with the religion thing, I mean, you have TCU and Baylor already in the Big 12. I don't think that it's a huge leap to get BYU in on that aspect.
Yeah, and I feel like even Texas Christian, like, it's in their name, but I feel like, I don't know, that seems like a party school to me.
Well,
So
yeah, I mean,
maybe that's just it. Maybe it's when I think of the Big 12 schools like fucking West Virginia, Texas Tech, like, you think party schools and BYU just doesn't fit the narrative? I don't know. I can't put a pin in it myself, but
now, see that, I'll agree with you on. I think that in order to become a Big 12 school, they need to start selling booze in Provo. Because, like, imagine you're a traveling fan and you show up to Provo ready to tailgate, and they're like, yeah, we have soda.
how funny would it be though if he did sell beer in Provo and just like it was all the away team fans just getting absolutely hammered and all the BYU fans were just chilling sober the whole time. What a dynamic that would be.
I think they're looking on in horror,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
god! Imagine the first time that like West Virginia or Texas Tech go to Morgantown, or not to Morgantown, to Provo.
Oh my god, that's almost better than the Mormons versus Mullets game. Like it has that same connotation to me.
It's almost better because if say that game was in, well, that was also during COVID, so you couldn't really have that many people there. But imagine a bunch of mullet wearing Coastal Carolina fans drinking Fireball in the BYU tailgating lots.
Yeah, that would be. And I mean, I guess we probably will. We still might get a little bit of that, even if they're not selling booze in the stadium. They can't sell them from tailgating, I guess, right?
I wonder how far outside of Provo you'd have to drive to get like a fucking third.
Yeah, that's it's BYOB for the Big 12 when you go to Provo. Pack it in the carry-on.
Or you just got to make the road trips. Don't make sure it doesn't jiggle around too much. All right. That's pretty much all the national news we've got. And apologies for not having a podcast the last couple of weeks. We've been a little bit busy. So to catch up all of our wonderful fans on recruiting season, it's official visit season for Pitt. We're going to run through all the commitments that Pitt has had since official visit started on the first week in June. Running into it first, we already had commits from Kenny Minchie and Zion Fowler. Minchie, once again, is a quarterback from Tennessee. Zion Fowler is an athlete projected to play wide receiver from Jersey City. So just going down the list, we have received commitments from Isaiah Neal, a defensive lineman from Baltimore, Bryce Pollock, a cornerback from Georgia, Kenny Johnson, who was actually the first Pennsylvania commit of the class. He's from Dallastown. He's a wide receiver. Antonio Camone, who's an edge rusher from Tampa, Florida. Montravius Lloyd, who's a running back, listed as an athlete from St. Petersburg, Florida. Rasheem Biles, who looks to be I think he's projected as a linebacker from Ohio. Shelton Lewis is a cornerback from Georgia. Shadarian Harrison is another cornerback from Florida, making 3 corners in the class. And then Brian Lovelace, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, is the first WPIAL commit to Pitt for this class. He's a linebacker. I don't think he has a ranking yet on 247 or anything. 247 gave him 3 stars, no composite ranking yet. I think it's nice that we actually have a WPIAL commit after pretty much none of them so far, and missing out on what's his name with West Virginia.
Yeah, it is nice to finally get some of those guys, considering one of the best like high school football leagues in the country is like right in our backyard. If we get a couple more of them, that always will always sweeten the deal a little bit. But yeah, no, super excited for all of these guys. Haven't got to watch the tape on, all of them yet, but it's exciting stuff. I know do you have the rankings handy? Where are we at for the 2022 class and the 2023 class? I think we're they're pretty decent for both, right?
22 is sort of it's a substandard class, but it's sort of an outlier, right? Because it was such a small class due to scholarship restraints on
We're
Pittsburgh's
bringing
end.
so many people back that's right. It's like not that great, but
So if we compare, say, the 2020 class, right, or actually the 2021 class. So Pitt was 29th in the 2021 rankings. If you look around the ACC, Clemson is obviously up there at 5. Miami's at 11. UNC is at 14. Mac Brown can recruit. Florida State's at 23, but really does nothing with it. And then you have Pittsburgh sitting, I believe that makes us 4th or 5th. I might have missed a team in there. And then if you hop over to 2023, Pittsburgh is currently sitting at 22 with 11 commits. I think there's going to be a lot more commits this year just because we're going to have more scholarship spots open up as your fifth-year seniors and your grad transfers lose their eligibility. Putting that in some context, it's very early in the cycle. That puts us in the ballpark with teams with 11 commits. Same range as West Virginia, who has actually out-recruited Pitt recently, but has not done anything on the field since Holgerson left, really. Boston College, Baylor, Tennessee are kind of in that 10 above Pitt with the same amount of commits. Tennessee, of course, being inflated by a 5-star.
Right. Yeah, no, it's exciting to be up there with some of those other programs, and it should only, keep on getting better. So
Right. I mean, obviously there are teams like Alabama and Michigan who, because of their small class size, are in the Alabama's actually 38 right now, but they only have taken 5 commits.
Yeah,
so that they're due to jump up, right?
that there's going to be those 4 or 5 at the top every time. It's just a matter of.
It's a matter of when, not if.
Yes, exactly.
Do you want to guess who's number 6 nationally? This is a great game for our listeners at home.
Oh, 6 nationally?
6 nationally.
Oh, is it Texas Tech?
It is.
Yeah.
Can you guess 7?
No. I don't know. I remember seeing that Texas Tech was 6, but I can't remember who came after that.
Well, Texas Tech used to be 2 when they were like the first class with like 20 commits, right?
Yeah.
7 is Cincinnati. I'll give you one more try. Who's number 8? You would not expect them to be this high with their on-field performance. I'll narrow it down for you. There's a lot of teams. It's a Big Ten team.
All right, there we go. Nebraska?
Close. Northwestern is sitting at 8.
Holy shit. Wow.
They have 18 commits, though, right? Most schools have between like
a lot. Yeah. A lot of 3-stars and stuff in there.
2 4s and 16 3-stars.
Yeah. So I guess that new facility that they built on the water is working for them. We need to look into doing something like that.
We need to build another facility that's riverfront next to our current riverfront facility. Is what I'm hearing. Okay.
Location.
Next to our riverfront stadium and maybe we should just destroy like far south Oakland for a riverfront top of the 376 Cliff Stadium. I think we should look into that.
Dude, I would literally give up my firstborn to have an on-campus stadium.
I don't think that's a crazy take. I think that you should be able to say that without reprimand. You should actually be able to trade in multiple firstborn children, right? It should not be a crime to steal other people's children, hand them to some shady NCAA official and say, "I'd like an on-campus stadium, please."
We're going to go to Heather Lake's office and we need the number. How many kids do we need for an on-campus stadium? And then we know.
Now, Heather, is there like sort of an exchange rate? Like, is one a live kid worth like 3 aborted kids, or like 4, 4.5? What's the exchange rate in Pittsburgh? Can we get a better deal maybe in other states? Maybe trade it in, bring them over here.
These are the questions that need answered.
People are asking.
That was a bit of a tangent. We're here for a Pac-12 preview.
Wait, not yet. Hold up on that.
Jump the gun.
You jumped the gun. I just want to go over a couple of notes before we get into our first season preview. One thing to note about Pitt's current class is that there's a pretty noticeable lack of offensive line commits. That is something that I'm worried about, as some of the top targets have ended up committing out to other schools. Michael Crounce out of Maryland went to Boston College, and Zachary Amland out of New Jersey ended up coming to Illinois. So, realistically, what we want to see are at least a couple of line commits, especially an interior O-line, where there's not a lot of backup talent backup young talent behind our current starting senior line. A couple of names to look out for that have taken visits but have not committed yet. First is from this weekend is Desmond Umeozulu, who's an edge rusher from Maryland. He is a high 4-star. That's a big target for Pitt. That's someone you want to see commit to Pitt. 6'6" edge rusher who's going to come into that Narduzzi system and wreak havoc. Speaking of offensive line, Philip Daniels is an interior offensive lineman from Cincinnati. 3 stars, 6'5". He recently got a Pitt offer, so he's someone to look out for as far as what this team needs. Another offensive lineman out of Ohio, kind of following that Ryan Baer, is a tackle from Columbus. His name is Ryan Coretta. He visited last weekend as well. Another D lineman to look out for in the class is Jalen Thompson out of Michigan. We made his top, insert number here, schools. High 4-star from Michigan. Another defensive player to look out for in that national top 250 area. Another offensive lineman to look out for is 4-star Stanton Ranmill. He's from Alabama. He recently made Pitt into his top 8 after his official visit, I believe, 2 weeks ago. And then looking ahead to this weekend's visits, the most important official visit of the Narduzzi era is coming this weekend. That's Hakeem Williams, the 5-star wide receiver out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I mentioned him on the Addison episode, where if we can get this guy to commit to Pittsburgh, or we're in his top 6 with some heavy-hitting schools, he's a game changer, and you may as well forget about Jordan Addison. It's going to be hard to, but this guy is different. Different.
I'm actually glad that you made me pump the brakes a little bit here, because I had totally forgot that we didn't talk about Hakeem Williams. And, just the fact that, you look at that top 6 and you see, it's Florida schools, SEC schools, and then Pitt. It's one of these things is not like the other. And the fact that we are even on that list is ridiculous. So hopefully we get a little bit of that Oakland charm, that Three Rivers charm, and he can, I don't know, I can tell you that, coming to Pitt is going to be much different than all of those other schools that he goes to that are very much like college towns. They breathe football, but I think that being different kind of has an advantage for us as well.
I think the big thing is, I think what they have to sell him on is the development. And you can show even though Addison's not there, you can show this guy became a beast here. You can show him. I think that what they really have to lean into is being next door to the Steelers practice facility.
Yeah.
And speaking on this, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, but
Chase Claypool?
Not that. We're not an NFL pod, but that was a very funny take from Chase Claypool about himself. No, it was a recruit. I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher this name. His name is Dydron Zipperer, which is a great name. He's a wide receiver from Florida as well. but he posted on his Twitter about how he accidentally, quote unquote, like bumped into Kenny Pickett on his official visit. If Pat Narduzzi isn't bringing out the accidental Kenny Pickett bump and photo op, and maybe even bringing fucking Aaron Donald in, I mean, you gotta do something like that, right? You gotta say, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, these guys are in the NFL.
Yeah. No, what a card to have. I mean, industry plant Kenny Pickett. I could get behind that narrative.
Secret double agent for the Pitt Panthers. I mean,
whatever it takes, man. I'm sure he'd like to see the team be like, it only does good for his stock to see us keep winning.
100% agree. I think that's about all for recruiting right now. Actually, I had two more quick notes. So there were two transfers into the program recently, both, I believe, graduate transfers. The first of which was, I believe, 2 weeks ago. That was Dartmouth quarterback Drew Kyler, who did not respond to my DM to come on the show. Shame on him.
Next week.
We'll get him eventually. Sources are saying that Drew Kyler is just making us wait, like the girl who left you on red or unopened for 15 days. She's just thinking of a really, really good message to type back to you.
Yeah.
Basically, he's a QB depth addition. He actually has really good numbers at Dartmouth, which they run a cool 2 QB offense. I was looking at a Dartmouth versus UNH highlight. It was actually a really cool game. They have sort of a, I don't know, they have like a Josh Allen mold guy who just runs quarterback sweep, which is kind of lovely to see. But I don't think he gets within the starting job or close to it without injuries piling up. Depth piece, just because behind Patty and Slovis, your third string would have been Yarnell, who's been hurt for a good amount of time and has no in-game experience.
Yeah. Great to just have a good head on the shoulders in the QB room too. How about an Ivy League quarterback joining the Panthers? I'm here for that.
Not only an Ivy League quarterback, but Dartmouth is like
the best.
Year in, year out, one of the best.
Yeah. So definitely a good depth move. I'm here for it.
Another depth move is a Notre Dame running back Sibo Flemstier. I wrote that down wrong. Sort of just another running back room depth piece. I'm pretty sure this is linked to one of the 22 commits. His name was Jordan Bailey. He could not get academically qualified at Pitt, so that left Pitt without a running back in the 22 class. So that sort of brings in Flemister as another body in the room before we get Montrevious Lloyd, the 23 commit, onto campus.
Yeah, he's so for whatever reason, his some of his highlights, some of his films are one that came across my timeline. And I like the way he runs. He's like a good hard runner. So will be a great kind of compliment to Abadakanda, Vincent Davis. Like, it'll be a good kind of change of pace, even though some of those guys can tote the rock. Like, just to have another horse that can get you a yard is going to be good, especially in the offense that we're kind of going to be bringing in this year.
So you're saying he's more of a Daniel Carter guy than a Izzy guy, is sort of in his running style.
Yeah. He's not super elusive, but runs hard. He'll break some tackles for sure.
Okay, good to know. And then one quick 2024 note. 2024 commit D lineman Jasir Whittington. Very active on Twitter, by the way. But he seems to be really committed to Pitt. You always see him recruiting other players like, hey, come to Pitt, man, which, you love to see. But he's one of the biggest things that he's been honestly working on is that he's trying to recruit 2024 cornerback Kenny Wosley, who's another Philadelphia product. And I think that if we could lock up those two players for 24, right? I mean, Wosley is a nationally a nationally recruited guy. So he'll be pretty hard to get and lock down, especially with, Penn State's probably going to come hard for him. But you can get those two Philly guys. That's going to open up Philadelphia for Pat Narduzzi. You need a stream of guys from that side of the state that are going to start committing to Pitt, because we can't let it be overrun by West Virginia, Ohio State, and Penn State.
Yeah, we need them. And I love when you get that big commit and they are so invested, like you said, that they start recruiting. Like, I think that's the best way to get other players, because that guy's having, Wosley's having pretty much every college football coach like in the nation like head over heels for him. But how many other players in the same class would be like, come on, bro, let's go win in Pitt, or doing it that way, which is awesome.
What was it? Just here. Oh, actually, not only are they same class, but they do go to the same school. They're both from the Emotep Institute in Philly.
Well, that way, yeah, I guess that connects the dots a little bit then.
Yeah, because I remember them both coming on an unofficial visit earlier this spring. That's when Jasir Whittington committed. So yeah, if he can bring his teammate across the state, that is going to be something that really, really changes the game.
Would love it.
With that, let's move into our first season preview of the year, Pac-12.
Are you relaxed? You should be,
Are we ready for a little Pac-12 preview?
Let's do it.
Here.
All right. All right, guys. So, because college football news is pretty slow, I decided to take a crack at writing a preview for each conference. How this is going to work is we're going to go work west to east across the nation. We'll start with the Pac-12, moving through the Big 12, SEC, Big 10, probably take a break somewhere in there for the top G5 teams, and we'll end on the ACC. This was a hard preview to write. There are not a lot of good teams out here.
Yeah, it's top heavy conference, I would say. I guess they all kind of are. But the bottom of the barrel is rough here.
Yeah, definitely. I know. Actually, I don't want to steal your thunder, Zach, about your layout for the preview, but yeah, definitely top heavy. Two clear standouts, and we'll go through the rest.
Don't spoil it. Oh, by the way, yes, Kent did end up joining us halfway through our recording, so he'll be helping us wade through this conference on the West Coast. We're all high on gas station boner pills, ready to talk about the 7 tiers of Pac-12 football. Okay, we'll start off with Tier 7. This is a tier all alone, and this isn't even about talent or record. I don't even know if this team will be that bad, but this is just sort of like a vibe tier, just based on what's going on with the program. So Tier 7 is titled "The Sun Devil Sits Upon His Throne in Hell." If you don't know what team I'm talking about, that is Arizona State. I think this team is gonna stink, man. They're under investigation for NCAA violations stemming from summer 2021. Actually, they might even go further back now with some alleged violations of hosting recruits during like the start and peak of COVID. But essentially, what that has led to is 5 coaches either having resigned or have been fired since January of this year. And that includes losing their assistant head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator. Another thing about this is that allegedly Jaden Daniels' mom was paying for recruits' plane tickets. To replace them, they got the UNLV, which is Mountain University of Nevada, Las Vegas from Mountain West. The OC from there is now here. The DC is an NFL guy. But more than that, they lost a lot more than coaches. I mean, they lost their quarterback, Jaden Daniels, who's now at LSU. Their running back, Rashad White. Their left guard, left tackle, and their top 4 catchers from a top 40 SP plus offense. Only their 5 of their 16 4-stars signed between 2019 and 2022 remain on the team. There's been a huge exodus of transfers from this program. They've lost, a couple of defensive backs, a linebacker, and a defensive end. This is 5 returning starters on offense and 4 on defense. This I don't know. This is a team that I don't think that they'll be the worst team in the league, but certainly leaving this year, it might be the worst situation.
Yeah, I don't have as heavy hitting of analytics, but they definitely don't pass the eye test. And furthermore, they gave us Joe Yellen, and we know how that worked out. So I think that just kind of speaks for itself, and that's kind of the epitome of where Arizona State football is at right now.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with Mason on his takes, and yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna be watching a whole lot of Arizona State this year. So
yeah, I mean, and then trying to be positive for this team. Their big gets in the transfer portals are quarterbacks Emory Jones and Paul Tyson, respectively from Florida and Alabama. Fun fact, Paul Tyson is Bear Bryant's great-grandson.
Holy shit. Football blood.
So they're competing to replace Jaden Daniels. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Emory Jones. I didn't think he was great at Florida, but maybe they're better suited for play outside the SEC. But really, they are trying to pull a Michigan State where they're trying to bring in as much talent as possible on short-term transfers from other schools. And even if that might work for them this year, I don't see it working past this year, namely because I think Herm Edwards is getting fired due to the NCAA investigation.
Yeah.
Also disappointing after a pretty hot start last year. And looking at their schedule, I mean, they opened Pac-12 play with Utah, but then in week 2, they have a trip to Oklahoma State. This team, I think, is going to get they're going to get turned to dust by that defense in week 2.
Yeah, I guess what. So in your eyes, they're probably the worst team in the conference, or who's rivaling Arizona State at the bottom of the Pac-12?
So I would say they're probably in the bottom third, right? I think just because of their NCAA standard, their situation with recruiting violations, they're somewhere in that bottom third of the Pac-12. I don't think they'll be the worst teams. I just kind of put them in that bottom tier just because of the bad vibes around the program.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you want to get the teams that I think will be the worst teams in the conference, we'll go to tier 6, which is just bad. I think this is how I would order it from bottom to top. We'll start with Arizona. Arizona is. Let me preface this by saying that you should know that Arizona is a long rebuilding job, and that's how you should look at what Jed Fish is doing here. And when he took over that job, he knew it, but to kind of get you acquainted with the state of this program, between October 5th, 2019 and today, the recording this podcast, and it will keep extending until the next time that Arizona wins a football game. they've won exactly one game. This stretch includes the 70-7 loss to Arizona State in 2020 that got their old coach fired. And their only win in that time frame was against Cal this year, which more on them later. And the one before that started on October 5th, 2019, or maybe the 4th, I forget how I did that, but it was against Colorado, which is the other team they shared this tier with. This is, as it stands right now, not a good football program. The hope is here that Jedd Fisch can sort of get them up and running with NFL coaching experience. They kind of return a middling amount of starters, which is 5 and 6 on offense and defense, respectively. But the real big get here is quarterback Jaden DeLora from Washington State, who transferred out after this year. They also got Jacob Cowing, a deep threat from UTEP. I really did like DeLora at Washington State. I think he did a lot with a little as far as the talent they have up there in Pullman. But he's going to a really, really bad situation in Arizona. He's not going to have a lot of line help. I mean, this offense rarely scored over 20 points per game. It actually averaged 17 and only 5 yards per play. The defense was like a leaky sieve that generated only 22 sacks the whole year and 9 turnovers. I think it's going to be grim here. If you're an Arizona fan that somehow found this podcast, just think about Khalil Tate. I think this program is right now in an extended year 0. And to add insult to injury, you are in out-of-conference scheduling hell. Week 1, you're going to San Diego State, who has an amazing defense under Brady Hoke right now. Week 2, you bring Mike Leach's Mississippi State to Arizona. By the way, that's an 11 o'clock game. That's an interesting time. Oh, because it's so hot in Arizona, you can't have the game before.
Yeah.
I think there's a thing where, if you have an event in September, you can't have it before 9 o'clock local in Arizona. And then the biggest goof of all, you schedule North Dakota State. You're going to get beaten up by that team.
That is going to be a tough look.
That one's going to be rough.
That's also 11 o'clock, so that's your primetime West Coast game. I bet those fans will travel too, so you'll probably have a lot of green in that stadium.
Yeah.
I'm actually talking myself into now getting excited to watch that game on TV.
It'll probably, yeah. It'll be one that you just kind of throw on, just because of the allure of the oddity of that game. But who knows?
It's a random matchup, but yeah, that might be one to watch this year. What date is that?
That is week 3, September 17th. I don't know. No one has learned not to schedule North Dakota State yet. They're just going to beat you.
Mark your calendar. Yeah. The Bison are coming to town.
Silver lining for Arizona is, like you said, Zach, they've only won one game in 2021, so real hard to go. It's only up. I mean, there is a chance to go down, but you got to think that they'll string together a win, more than one win in there somewhere. But yeah, also Gronk retired, so maybe people will Google Rob Gronkowski, see Arizona football, and they'll get a little media buzz that way, but probably not.
Yeah, maybe go to a game.
Do you think they retired his jersey yet?
I don't know. They should.
They really should, yeah, if they haven't. I don't know.
No, they've only retired one number. It's number 22 for Art Lupino.
Oh, yeah, Art Lupino.
Everybody knows that.
The boy.
But, yeah, no, that's actually ridiculous. They should retire that.
I can't think of another player that even deserves it that came from Arizona. So they should probably just like get ahead and go ahead and do that. Especially in a time like this where they could use any type of attention.
Further,
like Florida didn't retire Aaron Hernandez's number, right?
I would think they didn't.
That would actually be very funny if they did.
That'd be wild.
I wonder if you just kind of I don't think they did, but like, you can't even announce that you unretire it. You just kind of like have to give it to someone and let everyone figure it out.
Yeah, like slowly let the paint or like the banner slowly deteriorate while somebody starts wearing it.
I don't hate that. I don't know. Last note on Arizona is that you just gotta hope that like Arizona State becomes such a dumpster fire by the end of the year that you can beat them on Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. The other team that calls Tier 6 its home is Colorado, the Buffaloes. So one of the reasons that I think that Colorado is like they're clearly a perennially bad team in this conference. They really haven't been good since the mid 2000s. They were a pretty decent team, but it is pretty hard to recruit to Colorado. I think it's probably the hardest location in the Pac-12, other than maybe Pullman, Washington. And it shows like in how they've fared and successful. They won a division crown in 2013, but since then they've only won between 4 and 5 games every year. Colorado, even though it's like a quickly growing state, it doesn't produce a lot of football talent. It's obviously the farthest state from the coast. It's kind of close to Arizona, which is a big state for talent, but it's not too close. Doesn't have that connection to it, or rivalries, anything like that. So it's hard to bring those California recruits from the coast, but its departure from the Big 12 in the early 2010s makes it harder to recruit Texas, which was one of their original recruiting bases when they were still in the Big 12 and the Big 8. Because these recruits would rather go to the Big 12 and play against other players they faced who go to like Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and Baylor, rather than go out to the Pac-12 where your family's not going to be able to see you play. They're pretty much one of the most talented 5 teams here. Carl Dorrell, in my opinion, is probably a stopgap coach. If anyone forgot, Mel Tucker was actually the coach here only 2 years ago, or maybe 3 at this point. But he left for Michigan State in April. So his staff is pretty makeshift. He has Mike Sanford as the offensive coordinator. After a pretty bad year of RPO, merchantry, Mickey Mouse offense wizardry at Minnesota, their best receiver now is R.J. Sneed. He is from Baylor, but he's never gone over 600 yards in a season. And unfortunately, he's stepping in to replace Jerry Rice's son, who left for USC. They're going to need to hope that they can get some production out of their quarterback and their running game, because they pretty much return a dreadful defense. They gave up less than 28 points only 4 times in FBS play. Those teams were Arizona, Washington, Cal, and Texas A&M. All 4 of those teams have a terrible offense. So I would realistically expect them to be 0-4 going into October, with Carl Dorrell probably looking at the hot seat after a bad start like that, especially if you go 0-5 and lose to Arizona.
Yes, you have them losing to Arizona and UCLA.
Well, so they're out of conferences, TCU, Air Force, and Minnesota, and they host UCLA before going to Arizona. I would be really confident in picking against them in 4 consecutive weeks to have them start 0-4. I'm saying if they start 0-5, that's a tarmac firing where you leave Carl Dorrell in Flagstaff and say, we're moving on from you.
Fair. To add insult to injury, they get both Oregon and Utah too. So
okay. Any other thoughts here?
No, I think you hit on all the big ones. Nothing really standing out here.
Yeah, I mean, realistically at Arizona, you're looking to see if he can pick up recruiting in a pretty good area for recruiting, I might add, and get them back on their feet. Colorado, it is what it is. You got to have some. Either I think you got to get a new coach there. I don't know, run the triple. That's my take.
So
Um,
is that the last one in the bad tier, or do we have another one?
no, we'll be moving on to tier 5. This is the Cal tier, which I have dubbed the Justin Wilcox Memorial Moron Award tier for the following reason. Justin Wilcox, I believe, was either a player or used to coach at Oregon in some capacity. When Mario left that job for Miami, Wilcox was one of the first people they contacted to take that job. They were pretty much begging to hire him, and Justin Wilcox said no. Why? Why would you do that, Justin? Why would you not jump to arguably the second best job in the Pac-12? If arguably probably the most stable as far as boosters and investment come and go. But you chose to stay at Cal and keep Bill Musgrave as your offensive coordinator. I mean, Justin Wilcox is a very, very good defensive coach. I mean, he puts up pretty much like, I want to say he's never had a defense that's ranked below like middle of the pack in the entirety of college football. Last year they were a top 40 defense in SP plus, but their offense was 100th because you have Bill Musgrave running it. I mean, this is the guy who created the awe-inspiring offenses of the early 2010s Vikings and the post-Manning Denver Broncos offenses. What good is that going to do you? If I would expect once again that this defense is going to be really good because Wilcox is a great coach, but you're completely unserious as a program if you're not at least trying to hire a competent offensive coordinator that's going to help out this defense. They're going to steal maybe a couple games they shouldn't with their defense, but other than that, I don't think you're going to be any better than 5-7 just because you're holding yourself back through your offensive hires.
Yeah, that's a bad look for Wilcox. I mean, I don't know if he had personal reasons in terms of I mean, you said he has ties to Oregon, but he might have ties to Cal too, or if he thinks he has unfinished business there. I don't really know what the reasoning was behind staying, but I feel like if Oregon calls, you got to jump at that opportunity. So.
Oh, he's okay. So he did play as a D-back at Oregon. He's actually born in Eugene.
Oh yeah, then definitely. Why would you not? Why would you not leave?
Dude, I have no idea. And plus, you have to think he doesn't have a stellar record. He's 26-28. Why would you not jump to one of the better jobs?
Wait, so yeah, he's been at what Cal 5 years?
5 years. He's had 2 bowl eligible seasons, and we'll discount 2020 because that was the COVID year. They only played 4 games.
Yeah, that's a questionable decision by him in that case. Then I mean, I guess if he'd only been there a year or two, it would have made more sense to me. I feel like, but being there 5 years and kind of being average, and Oregon gives you a chance. I feel like you got to take that. But I mean, yeah, and then if staying at Cal, I mean, we're talking about Cal right now. This is, teams that focus so heavily on defense that they just ignore the offense are just so I feel like frustrating as a fan to watch, just because, I mean, unless your defense is super, super dominant, scores defensive touchdowns every game type dominant, those are some of the worst football teams to watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like everybody's trying to be I don't know, like Michigan, where they're just like, we're going to let our defense eat and not give up points. We don't really care if our offense is good, but like at a much subpar level to that. Like they're not even trying. Michigan, at least, I think, tries to have a run game.
I would almost compare them more to a team we mentioned earlier, that's San Diego State, where they basically they say fuck it, we're gonna run the worst offense ever and win by stuffing you on defense.
Yeah.
But in this league now, I mean, granted, Cal's not in the same division as USC, but now that divisions are going away, this is like at the top. These teams have some pretty good offenses. You know, USC, Oregon State, Washington State. Not so much Washington now will with Kalen DeBoer. You're not going to be able to keep these high-powered offenses to score low enough for you to give yourselves a chance with that defense.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I mean, I feel like as a player and as a coach and as a fan, it's just like when your team is making stops and you're getting your offense the ball back in clutch situations and your offense just gives it right back. I feel like that's just so deflating. It's just not the type of team that I would personally build, but I think that I don't think that's a winning formula.
Yeah, just completely unserious team. Just kind of can just disregard them for now. Let's move into tier 4. So these are the teams that like now we're starting to kind of get out of the basement and into sort of what I call the tier. Like I don't really know what to think about them. I think they could be good, but I also wouldn't be surprised they went 6-6. Sort of. Yeah, I'm not sure what to think. I'm gonna need to see some data points of them playing football before I can really have a concrete take on them. So let's start with Washington. So this team flat out stunk last year after Jimmy Lake completely fumbles the bag, taking over from Chris Peterson, one of the best coaches in the game. He's known for famous moments such as slapping his player on the sideline and then saying that we're not recruiting rivals with Oregon because we recruit smarter players or different kinds of players, which meant to be a knock at Oregon's academic standards. Yeah, so he's gone. So enter Kalen DeBoer, the conductor of the often off-the-rails Jay Kaner train. So Kalen DeBoer was the offensive coordinator of that one good Indiana team that you remember that made you lose money on betting Indiana. He then became the head coach at Fresno, and now he's here at Washington. Unfortunately, he failed to get Haener to transfer with him because Fresno State fans actually bullied him out of the transfer portal. So what he got to work with now is a QB competition between Sam Huard and Michael Penix, which was his quarterback at Indiana. The thing is, though, it doesn't really have a lot of good pieces returning elsewhere on the offense. Jimmy Lake's recruiting abilities were absolutely subpar, so DeBoer's got to run his system running really fast, and he's got to get recruiting really fast to turn this program around to keep them from cratering. And the thing is, though, I'll have a lot of faith in this hire because he's already proved that this offense works in the Pac-12. It nearly beat Oregon in Week 1 last year, if you remember that game. And then it threw UCLA, and then they upset UCLA in Week 3. So I think that on the offensive side of the ball, this is something that you could be really confident in moving forward. On the defensive side, there's a solid linebacking core and D-line. The problem is they've got to replace a lot of NFL departures in the secondary. I don't think a bowl berth is out of question for this team, and they do play in. Actually, I don't know if they play in the easier of the two former divisions, but I don't think a bowl berth is out of question for this team.
Yeah. And I think you said it best, but they're kind of one where you need to see like more data points to kind of figure out where they're going to be at this year. And the good news is that we do kind of get that early. I believe they play Michigan State week 2, which would be a kind of good, like, what is this team? What are we going to get from them early on? So that'll be one that I'm kind of looking out for.
They welcome Kent State week 1, and then Michigan State comes week 3. That's pretty
Is
fun.
it week 3? Okay.
That's pretty fun. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State really, puts a beating on or beats them handily. But I think that with Kalen DeBoer's system, you kind of have a high floor, almost like a kind of a 5-win area floor.
Yeah. But even if it's not even necessarily a game they have to win, but how they take those punches against Michigan State will kind of show their true colors. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on Washington.
I couldn't remember the NFL departure. Trent McDuffie, now on the Chiefs, was former Husky. That's the name I was thinking of, as well as Kyler Gordon, now at the Bears.
Yeah.
Moving along, Stanford. Once again, one of these teams that I think there's a lot of hype going around Stanford from what I've been reading. I don't know, I'm not sure if they're gonna in for another 3 or 4 win season, or David Shaw is about to turn back the clock 8 years. So one of the things that while Colorado is one of the hardest locations to recruit to, Stanford is clearly the hardest school to recruit to. They obviously have tough admission requirements, so it's pretty hard getting kids eligible academically to go to Stanford. But their earliest admission date for just general admission to the school is after early signing day, which kind of can make a recruit's mind unsure of where they want to play, especially, if they don't know if they're getting to Stanford or not. Even so, David Shaw has 3 top 20-ish classes over the last 4 years. And you wouldn't really think it because they finished sub 100 in both offensive and defensive SP Plus last year. I mean, they had some good moments, through the Oregon game, and then after that game, it's like the team just jumped off a cliff. The offense scored basically more than 14 points once, and the defense routinely got turned into dust. It seems so stupid to say this team can be bowl eligible, but I think the pieces are there. Tanner McKee is pretty good when he's healthy, and I think really the team goes as far as the former 5-star does. But also they have Emmitt Smith's son at running back. Kind of asking for someone to fill in the shoes of Christian McCaffrey and asking him to be him again are such huge shoes to fill. But I mean, who better to do that than the son of Emmitt Smith, right? You have to hope though that the offense isn't just spamming fade routes anymore. They go back to that running heavy style that they were doing under McCaffrey, where it really set up the rest of their game. If things go south in the middle of the season, I would probably expect their defensive coordinator to get canned first. His name is Lance Anderson. They gave up 41 points to Cal, we talked about earlier last year, and that is just dreadful.
What felt weird to see Stanford at 3-9 because of all those years where they had the McCaffreys and they had the Andrew Lucks, and were kind of a staple in the conference. But I don't necessarily think this year is going to be where they get back to that, but they could definitely be a solid team. Also, have a pretty tough schedule, but could see them, making some noise. Could definitely make a bowl. I could see that.
Yeah, the problem with Stanford is they have absolutely brutal schedule. They have one FCS game, and then their other two out of conferences are Notre Dame and BYU.
Oof.
I feel like for some reason I feel like regardless of how good each team is, I mean Notre Dame's always good, but I feel like that Notre Dame Stanford game is always a nail biter. I don't know if there's literally anything to back that up, but for some reason the memories I have of those games are always really close.
There were definitely a lot of good ones. Like, I feel like it hasn't been good lately, though.
Yeah, I might just be having a little nostalgia trip.
The last one that was within a touchdown was 2016.
Yep. All right.
Who was Stanford playing in the band on the field game?
The band
In
on
the
the
what?
field game.
Oh, it was against Cal. Like the band was on the field because they thought the game was over and the play was still going on. That was Stanford, right? But yeah, I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
For some reason I was thinking it might have been Notre Dame, but it was Cal. Cal Stanford.
You really dug deep in the bag for that one, bringing up a 1982 Cal Stanford game.
Yeah. How the hell did you even? Where did you get that from?
That's like a classic college football video.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it is. But actually, yeah, but that was good pull. Good pull there.
Yeah. That'll be a trivia question sometime for sure, and I'm gonna know it now. So thanks, Ken.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right. That's all for tier 4. Now we're getting into the top 3 tiers here. These are the teams I think are actually going to be good. So tier 3, I've dubbed Little Brothers because, spoiler, it's Washington and Oregon State. Okay, so let's start this off with Washington State. And folks, they're doing Western Kentucky in Eastern Washington. So after Jake Dickert secures his job by winning the Apple Cup on the road and having Wazoo fans storm the field, which I thought was really cool, he looks around and said, "Shit, I need a quarterback." Jaden DeLora went to Arizona. So Jake Dickert looks to San Antonio, Texas, at the University of the Incarnate Word, and their quarterback, Cameron Ward. They as well took his head coach, Eric Morris, and made him the new offensive coordinator at Wazoo. And if you haven't seen Cameron Ward play, you should, finish listening to this podcast first, and then go ahead and look up a highlight reel of his. His ball placement and the zip he can throw on at balls, even on these like stupid, should be picked Brett Favre level throws, is so impressive. I mean, he threw for nearly 4,700 yards with a 47-10 touchdown to interception ratio last year. The jump from FCS to FBS is never a given, but like Cameron Ward makes Washington State must-see football when you're drunk at the bar on a Saturday night, and they become like this guns-blazing shootout team, and they've got this awesome quarterback to do it with legit NFL draft buzz too, who, fun fact, is related to Quandre Diggs.
Yeah, it gives great like Pac-12 after dark vibes.
And I'll have to admit my personal bias here. I love Washington State. I think they're such a cool team. They became my Pac-12 after dark team. They when Gardner Minshew was there, I loved watching that team. So I might be a little higher on them than like the average guy, but I really think that like Cameron Ward can take this team, like they can beat a couple teams that are not quote unquote supposed to.
Yeah, when you have a quarterback like that, if he lives up to the hype, I guess it's always having the ability to kind of take over a game is good for a team. So there could definitely be a couple times where I could see that happening.
Yeah, I haven't watched him play, but I'd be interested to. Pac-12 after dark, as we mentioned, some of the best times watching football, those type of games. So definitely need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, when you've had a worst day gambling and you just need to throw on something just to even get back to even, that's the epitome of Pac-12 After Dark. I wish I could say winning money, but it's not.
Sort of to kind of give myself a reality check here and sort of balance out my personal bias. Unfortunately, they're not a truly greatly talented team. They're sort of towards the bottom in every category. That white running back you remember who played there, Max Borghi, is no longer there. He ran out of eligibility, I believe, either this year or last year. No, it was he ran out of eligibility this year. I wasn't wrong. They've got Nakia Watson stepping up at running back. They've got a wide receiver named Dejon Stribling, who is really good with has been good for them. But there's not a lot of returning experience on the defense. They've got some talent on the D-line, but once again, this is really going to be the Cameron Ward show of if he can make that Bailey Zappi jump that happened at Western Kentucky this year, he can make Washington State a competitive team in the Pac-12.
Sweet. Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, team to keep an eye on, and you've talked me into it. I'm excited to watch them.
Just doing my job then. Okay. The other little brother here is Oregon State. I don't really know how to describe them besides being bizarro Cal. I mean, they regularly scored 25-plus points a game last year. They even beat the eventual Pac-12 champ Utah when they came to Corvallis, 42-34. But, that score shows you that the Beavers, for the most part, really can't stop a wet fart. Their current coach, Jonathan Smith, has pretty much worked miracles here. I mean, I remember a couple years ago, the big joke around was that Oregon State should just hire a triple option coach because they've been in the basement of the Pac-12 for so long. But now, with his offensive system, it's rolling and it's like simple yet effective. They rose all the way to 16th in SP Plus last year out of like the 70s where they were before. And I remember watching the Civil War last year, the Oregon State game, where every time that Oregon would throw a heavy blow at Oregon State, they always had this counterpunch behind a strong run game and would keep scoring, going back to back. They couldn't keep up with Oregon's talent. Their defense couldn't stop Oregon. But this system has gotten the most out of his players. I'd like to see their quarterback, Chance Nolan, be a little bit better. I think that if he were to be a little bit better, they could go from like a 6-7 win team to like an 8-9 win team, maybe even upsetting one of the top teams. I kind of see him as the X factor because I think having your quarterback make a jump is more reasonable than having your defense all of a sudden be lights out, especially with how hard it is to recruit to Oregon State. His 19-11 interception to touchdown ratio is a little ugly, needs to get better. But if that gets better, I think this is like I think this could be like somewhere in like the 7-9 win 7-9 win range, and this so far they've only gone up, and I have no reason to sort of doubt that trajectory. Unfortunately, they have a pretty rough out-of-conference schedule this year. They start week 1 by welcoming Boise State into their home, which is always an interesting decision to make. Then they go to Fresno State, and then they host FCS runner-up Montana State before bringing in USC week 4 to open up Pac-12 play. So the schedule might have just brought my expectations down a little bit, but I still think that the offensive system is enough to earn them a few wins. But it's going to be a tough time going for this team.
Biggest offseason story I saw on Oregon State was that video of them exploding part of their stadium to renovate. Apparently, they're still going to be playing there this year, but the construction's not going to be done until like fall 2023. So I don't know exactly how that will look, or like if they just have like half the stadium where the fans can't sit there this year. So they lose a little bit of a home field advantage. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I remember seeing that. I didn't see that it was. Yeah, it's not supposed to be ready until next season. Not it's supposed to be done summer 23.
Yeah, so I was wondering if they were like playing somewhere else this year, but apparently they're still going to play there. So
Okay, so I just looked at that video again, which actually blew my eardrums out. I think there's still a decent amount of stands that are still up. They sort of just blew up like the press box. Maybe there's a hill. I can't really tell, but there's like a lot of like bleacher style seating that's left. So I guess they're just gonna have to. Well, I don't know. Would that be under an active construction site?
yeah, I think it's like just like the one side, and then so everybody's just going to have to sit on the other side.
I think that's right because they definitely blew up the side that doesn't get shown on TV. Like already, I'm looking at it now. Like there was not a lot of room on that side anyway.
Oh yeah, I kind of see that. But yeah, pretty much lose a whole side for the season. But although it's hard to tell, is there like a lower section? But as you said, like that might be like an active construction site. So I don't know. Interesting. But anyways, I mean, they still have a lot of seating. They'll still have a good number of fans there, but could affect them a little bit. That's all I'm trying to say.
That was talking stadiums. I mean, I actually, I didn't really even consider how that would affect home field advantage. You're kind of you're not gonna have that trapping effect where the sound like bounces off the walls of the stadium. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I think this is gonna be a fun team to watch. I don't have too high expectations for them, but I think they'll be fun and they'll probably make another bowl game.
Yeah, I feel like they're a bowl team, but definitely have a chance to at least make a bowl. But I don't think they're gonna do anything special. But yeah, they're definitely not at the bottom of the conference.
Where are we at here?
Tier 2. I don't know. I can sort of kind of keep these short and sweet because we have talked a lot about the rest of the conference. My thing with tier 2 is that these teams are going to be good, but one side of the ball is clearly better, right? We'll start with UCLA, which I think is firmly my number 4 team in the conference. Basically, Chip Kelly, it's now or never. You bring back DTR, you're bringing back Zach Charbonnet, who's a 1,000-yard rusher. You got a good line to work behind. His athleticism is a known fact at this point. If you can get that run game going, this is going to be a fun team to watch. Unfortunately, you're losing a lot on defense. You have to find chemistry fast and utilize that talent well. My thing with this team is that the offense will have to excite in every game to keep them in contention for the Pac-12 title.
Yeah. UCLA is a team that I don't know a whole lot about. Some people, I don't know. Some people are up on them. Some people are down on them. They're right outside that bubble of the top teams in the Pac-12 here, which isn't saying much, but they could make some noise. I don't know what to think of them. I have some bias here because as an Eagles fan, Chip Kelly was great and then kind of like ruined my life for like 5 years after he left. So not big on UCLA because of personal bias. Since we're addressing that,
It's fine as long as you tell us why you're biased.
there's always a reason. Fuck that guy. Not just kidding.
I mean, mean, like real quick, like this team was number 8 in offensive S&P plus, number 4 in the country in offensive EPA to overall. Almost pretty much on offense, every play was adding 0.2 expected points, right? So they were just expected to score all the time. Unfortunately, the defense was 80th, so yeah, that's where you're going to see the big difference. Moving on, Oregon. So Dan Lanning, to his credit, he worked miracles to keep that top 25 recruiting class together after Cristobal left. He was obviously a fantastic defense coordinator at Georgia for their championship run, but does that translate to the Pacific Northwest, where Cristobal before tried to bring that mean SEC defense and line play and recruiting there, but realistically, he only brought the recruiting because the teams he put out, especially last year, ended up being really soft, and they got run over by Stanford and run over by Utah. To speak on the defense, I mean, there are some really, really good pieces here. Noah Sewell is their linebacker who's terrifying. You've probably seen a picture of him just standing menacingly at Oregon practice. You've got cornerback Jamal Hill as well as safety Bennett Williams. Each of them had more than 20 tackles. Bennett Williams had 3 interceptions last year. Like, it's going to be a different look, different scheme, but I'm not really concerned about the defense at Oregon, given their recruiting history and Dan Lanning's track record at Georgia. My concern here is the offense. Bo Nix. Bo Nix is really your choice to be your quarterback. I just feel like they should be starting Ty Thompson. Like, I believe he's a 5-star. He didn't beat out Anthony Brown, so unless like he was completely overrated, like I don't know why Bo Nix is starting, especially. And then again, like your OC, kind of like Cal, as Kenny Dillingham. His previous stops were 2019 Auburn and Florida State the last couple of years. Like those offenses weren't that great. You're also losing who was that great running back they had? Was it Travis Dye? Yeah, so they lose Travis Dye as well, so they have to really replace a lot of production from their running backs. I don't know. I feel like this is going to be a dominant defense that really their major test of the year is going to be Utah. Is can Dan Lanning get them to a point where they're not getting run over by Utah?
So are you just chalking them up to a loss to Georgia? Is that already in the books? Because I think I'm with you, honestly, but I wanted to talk about that game a little bit too.
Yeah, and my thing is like, I mean, you're going against the national champion, defending national champion, former employee of the head coach, and like a year one first time head coach. If you're an Oregon fan or you're trying to like kind of crystal ball their season, don't base anything off that Georgia game. They're going to lose, but it's not going to mean anything in the long run.
Yeah, I think if they can make it like it was last year, where it was like a close competitive game, they'll be fine down the stretch. That's when you're right. It comes down to that the Utah game.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, earlier I said there's like 2 clear standouts, but I really think there's 3. I think Oregon would be that third team for me. I mean, with Cristobal leaving, I think they had a decent replacement, and but yeah, I think there's definitely a bigger gap between 3 and 4 in this conference between Oregon and UCLA than 2 and 3. So, I think they're going to be an entertaining team to watch. I think Bo Nix coming in, I know you're criticizing it, but I think that's an interesting pickup for them, and I'm kind of excited to see how that works out there. But yeah, team to keep.
I think it would be really cool. I think it would be just because like how fast he was like freshman phenom to run out of town in Auburn if he like comes to the Pac-12 and absolutely balls for some reason. I just think that would be really funny for the narrative.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess that would be cool, especially since he started his career with that like crazy win against Oregon. But
I didn't even think back to that far, but yeah, I forgot.
I'm not a huge fan of Bo Nix.
I wouldn't even say that I am either. I think it would be funny. I don't know.
I just think I think it's an interesting, very interesting storyline / like, I don't know. I'm excited to see him there.
Never get in the way of SEC fans being mad about them. So
I think it would be very funny just for like so many SEC fan bases if Bo Nix, like in the final, presumably the final year of his career, takes it off beating Georgia. But once again, I don't think that's going to happen.
yeah, probably not.
Okay, let's move on to number 2. Like Kent mentioned earlier, I think there's a pretty small gap between Oregon and number 2 team, which is USC. And they're kind of like opposites, right? Like, if we're talking about Lincoln Riley, the reason why Oklahoma was a overtly fraudulent team wasn't the offense. I mean, post Rattler's benching, right? The offense only really struggled against Baylor because Dave Aranda is Lincoln Riley's kryptonite. But their defense, like, just couldn't stop anything. They couldn't stop a Mike Gundy offense, which they stopped for years, where the QB had a wet noodle arm and like tried to give the game away multiple times. Like, USC has not done anything that's telling me that this defense is going to be markedly improved from what Lincoln Riley had at Oklahoma. I mean, obviously, like, USC will immediately be one of the better teams in the Pac-12 and probably should compete for a conference title. But, like, Caleb Williams, Mario Williams, Jordan Addison, Travis Dye, and Jerry Rice's son, like, this is immediately, objectively, a fun team to watch on offense. But they're going to have to go into this, like, guns a-blazing, right? Like, if they cannot keep up with the team on offense, I don't think their defense is really going to stop anything.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think, definitely the focus this year is going to be on the offense for sure. And, a lot of big names coming in, and Lincoln Riley, I think the expectations for them are just so high that I think, some people, it might be a bit of a letdown for some people. It might be, better than some people are expecting. It'll be for sure a very interesting team to watch this season. But one of my roommates is actually he's been a huge USC fan for his whole life. Both of his parents went there, and I asked him today how many wins he thinks they're going to get this year, and he said 9. So we'll see.
I feel like that's a very on par answer.
Yeah.
I also think there's like a lot of hype surrounding them, just because of and not even the Jordan Addison stuff, but Lincoln Riley going there and then Oklahoma being pissed off for taking recruits and that whole, like, they've had just a lot of attention, and I think that has got them overhyped a little bit, but could definitely see them in like the 9 to 10 win range, which I think is good, honestly. Like, they've been on my bad side because of the Jordan Addison stuff for sure, but like when the Pac-12 has like a team that could be in the college football playoff, it's great for college football. I think it's even better when it's USC just because of the history there. So I think it's cool that they're in that conversation kind of again, and will probably be, like, in years to come, will probably be that team in the Pac-12. So I don't know. I could see about 9 wins or so for this team.
I think 9 is fair. It's almost like Lincoln Riley has kind of rewritten the year one expectations with this transfer class, right? Like, I don't think that they're going to be good enough to go like 12-0, right? But I would honestly say like anything less than 9 wins with this offense has got to be a failure, because if you look at this schedule, right? I'll pull it up now. Let's play the classic podcast game. Let's read a schedule. So they start their season hosting Rice. They go to Stanford. They host Fresno State. They can go to Oregon State. They host Arizona State. They host Washington State. They go to Utah. They go to Arizona. They host Cal. They host Colorado. They go to UCLA. And then they host Notre Dame.
I feel like
Yeah.
I'm hard pressed to find realistically more than 2 to 3 losses on this schedule.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, maybe Utah, and
Obviously, we have Utah is the only remaining team. I think Utah is a better team. I think they won't be as good as Notre Dame, especially with Marcus Freeman on the defense. But like, you could probably talk me into one of UCLA or Oregon State giving USC a third loss, but I'd say anything more than 3 losses, like that schedule should be cleaned up outside of those 4
yeah,
teams.
I could also just see like a surprise loss somewhere to some team that they really shouldn't lose to. Just like first year head coach, I don't know. I just feel like I could see that happening, but could also see them just winning it, 10 to 11. So, but yeah, I think nine's a good number. Obviously they're on the shit list for Pitt fans right now, so it's kind of a bittersweet topic, I guess. Touchy subject, but
Yeah.
definitely a team that a lot of people will be watching this year.
Let's close this out with Tier 1, which I think is the only legitimate playoff contender in this league. So the number 1 team in this league, I think by far and away, is the Utah Utes. I think they're a legitimate playoff contender. They return a lot on offense. They return dual threat quarterback Cam Rising, who after taking over the offense last year pretty much just went crazy with it. They returned 1,100-yard rusher Tavion Thomas, and as well as tight end Brant Kiyuthe, who had 50 catches for 600 yards, 12.2 per reception, and 6 touchdowns. One thing about Utah is that they really love their tight ends. You'll see them put out 2 to 3 tight ends on like more or less every play. I don't know. I just can't imagine that this team really will get like bullied around by any defense. And I think they should score enough on any defense to go undefeated in league play. This offensive line is like a group of tone-setting guys. They're going to run people over, and we saw that in the Oregon game last year. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but on the flip side of the ball, like the Utes are losing linebackers Nafai Sewell and Devin Lloyd. But like, I don't know. This might be like wrong of me to like think of, but like, or I'm not sure if this is rooted in fact at all, but like this team produces mean linebackers in like a laboratory. They're gonna need to find some new starters on the defensive line, but they are coming into this season with star corner Clark Phillips III, I believe had 13 pass defenses and 2 picks last year. The thing for the Utah Utes is that they need this run heavy, tight end heavy attack to set the tone, set the pace of play, and wear out your opposing defense, and give your guys on the defense time to find their footing and recover. I don't like to kind of cap off my feelings about this team, like just because of what they have on offense and how well Cam Rising runs it. This is no longer a dark horse playoff contender like people said they were a couple years ago. This is a full-blown playoff contending team. Unfortunately, they don't play BYU, which I thought would be an excellent game this year, especially with how good I think BYU is going to be. However, to go over their schedule, week 1, they're going to Florida. That is going to be a body bag game for Utah. They get San Diego State at home. the San Diego State offense is so bad that they should be able to beat them, even if the defense does end up stopping them. Within the Pac-12, they get Oregon State at home, they get USC at home, but they have to travel to Oregon and UCLA. I think getting USC at home is definitely a huge advantage. I believe they got Oregon at home last year as well when they upset them, but I think avoiding BYU in the schedule really makes this, like, I wouldn't be shocked if this team is undefeated going into championship weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you. It's not exactly a super hot take to think that they're the best team in the Pac-12. But let me ask you this: do you see a path? I guess this is kind of bringing in everything, but do you see a path where maybe they drop a game to a USC or an Oregon, win conference title and still get in, or are we still in the Pac-12 needs to go undefeated territory?
I think if they drop a game to USC or Oregon, because of how they're changing up the division structures with the top two teams qualifying for the title game, I think they'd have to beat them in the title game, sort of like how Bama did. I could see it if they beat that team in the conference title game, or if they lose to one of them but beat the other one twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I respect that.
It also comes down to that question, like, factors in what you get from other conferences too, I think.
Yeah.
But this feels like the first time in a while that we have like a couple, I don't know, like we have a true, like, perennial, or I guess perennial is not the right word. You have like a true candidate for the playoff and the preseason look into the Pac-12.
Yep, and I think that is what the league needs right now, especially with USC sort of like reloading, is if Utah can really, really take advantage of sort of the last year that theoretically USC should be a sleeping giant, they can do a lot here.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was going to say, like, if they want to make a run at this, it's got to be this year, because USC is going to get better, and I don't think Utah can keep pace with that type of I don't know how quickly USC is going to get very, very good. So
you don't talk as much about like championship windows with college teams because you can just keep recruiting, but Utah's championship window is literally closing.
Especially with, like, Kyle Whittingham is one of the older coaches in college football, so, like, it wouldn't shock me if he retires soon after this window closes.
Yeah, I agree. But I expect big things from Utah. I'm really excited to see how they shake out towards the end of the year here.
I'm super excited for them. I mean, this is like a top 15 rushing attack in the country. Like that. I don't know about you guys, but like that Utah UCLA game is just going to be so much fun to see two teams that can run the football right at each other. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Run the damn ball, baby.
Run the damn ball, set the tone. That's all from us. Next time you hear from us, we'll be previewing the Big 12. If you like the show, be sure to let us know by giving us a 5-star review on Spotify or a review on Apple. Make sure to follow the pod at Simplify Pod on Twitter. Or if you want to ask us a question that we can answer on the show, feel free to tweet it at us or DM it to the Twitter account. You can follow me on Twitter at I'm Real Angry. You can follow Mason at Clayson_Ming. You can follow Kent at Kenton_VW. All of those can be found in the bio of the show Twitter. And with that, thanks for listening and see you next week.
Hail to Pitt.